I love you.
Love you too.
Okay, will you go sit down for me and just play your tablet? So my name is Daniel Ritchie. This is my update from my previous experience here on the Addiction series, which has been one of the most powerful messages that I've been able to carry, which was almost completely unintended, but at the same time, that's the intention, right? Is to continue to carry the message. And I feel as though this update today, I'd like to tell everyone what I've been doing and what that's been and how it's impacted myself and my life. I mean, first of all, when I did this last time, my daughter was, I think, about a year and a half old. She's now 5 years old, healthy, beautiful, little, bruised up, daredevil kid who's just having the time of her life right now. The magic of innocence in children. And also at the same time, how impactful our work as adults and our work as members of the recovery community actually is. I mean, it's magical to see your children see what having your children help others just as I have, but not have to go through what I did in order to accomplish the same goal. My daughter one day, this is the first time that this experience happened to me, was there was a homeless man standing outside. And she's seen me talk to homeless. She's seen me be compassionate to those that maybe others weren't. And the first thing she did was say, "Daddy, he's thirsty." And we went inside. She went and grabbed a Sunkist. And I had to pay for that Sunkist before anything else that we came to that store for. And she couldn't wait to go outside and hand this man that Sunkist. And it just melted my heart, because it's not only doing something compassionate, it's what it symbolizes. It symbolizes the breaking of a generational curse. It celebrates, it celebrates the magic of recovery and what God has done in my life. It was like that moment, it was very content, because if anybody watched the last one of the things I never thought I would be is a father. And being a father is probably the greatest gift that I've been given in recovery. So since my last show, so I believe I mentioned it there at the end, I was volunteering at a hospital. So one of the things I began to do almost immediately when I got sober, clean, for the purpose that I like to, baby. So, and as we know, we do these live. So, but that's fatherhood right there. But for the purpose of, kind of continuation from where I was before, I started helping others at about 6 months. I began going back to the treatment center that I had attended. I began mentoring others like myself. I began also taking a support group meeting in, which gave me some exposure to what helping others really was. It led me to an opportunity to volunteer at one of our biggest hospital systems in the Cincinnati area, our Level 1 Trauma Center, which is actually somewhere where I had experience. I actually had been to that hospital on multiple occasions. One of the first times I had gone to that hospital, I was told to go to the hospital because I could get help. And I remember showing up to that hospital thinking that this was all about to end. I was a couple years in addiction. I actually hadn't even used a needle yet, but I knew that I had clearly had a problem. I had lost everything and I wanted to stop. I really did. And I went there and it was such a relief. And then I got back and I noticed I didn't get a blanket or a pillow. And I was like, well, it's a little confusing. And then somebody came, took my vitals. Shortly after, a woman in a trench coat, a white doctor's coat, walks in, and she goes, "Look, sir, we don't do that here. If I put somebody who is detoxing from heroin in a bed, I wouldn't have any beds, and I'm not taking up a bed for that. And smirked a little bit. And it crushed me. And I remember the feeling of defeat that I had, and just like, it was like I wasn't a human anymore. And I ended up going home and kind of detoxing myself, but of course it didn't last. I had no idea what I was doing. She may even have handed me a list of resources. It was the lack of compassion that really affected me because it made me feel subhuman. And I ended up being out for another 5 or so years. And I always thought back to that, like at that moment, there was an opportunity there. What if somebody would have said to me, Daniel, you can get through this. Daniel, you can get help. Daniel, there's resources available. Let me help you find it. What difference could that have made? I believe it may have made a bigger difference. It may not have. The bottom line is there was no resource available for me. There was no peer support. There was nobody that made me feel safe. And so let's fast forward. I get an opportunity to volunteer at that same hospital that I once was in. I actually had been stabbed as well and had laid in that hospital. I had overdosed multiple times and had been in that hospital on top of that last experience. But now I'm here helping others. And I remember the first time I walked in that room, it was like, it was something magical happened. The gentleman in the bed had overdosed and he was being very resistant to medical care and was just ready to leave. And when I walked in that room and I said, hey, look, man, I'm here to help. I'm a member of the recovery community and I just want you to know that you matter and that I can help you today. Do you want out? He started to cry. And this is somebody who's been in, this is me laying in that bed. And I was like, there's something special here. And that first year, I ended up getting 58 individuals into treatment, volunteering part-time. After that first year, this is another thing about recovery and another word that a lot of people use, and it's called faith, right? I had faced, life in recovery, which can be somewhat, it can be turmoil. I mean, life itself isn't fair, let alone whether you're using drugs or alcohol or suffering from mental health. It doesn't matter. Life hits you, and it always hits you eventually. So, I was bouncing at a bar. I was having a tough time finding a job, and I told him at UC that the hospital, that I was going to maybe need to cut down on the volunteer, that I needed to find a career. I needed to do something, that I was a father now. And they said, Daniel, we want you to hold that thought. And then 10 minutes later came back to me and said, we want to offer you a full-time position here working for the College of Medicine. And to be the first ever actually employed individual for that entire hospital system that was a peer in recovery. And man, you talk about full circle moments almost. That's one of many, but it was I was just like, wow. I mean, life-changing opportunity, right? For somebody like me, somebody with a 10th grade education, someone who's been in the system their whole life or suffered from drug addiction. Even though I had that successful fight career at one time, man, that was over. There was a new chapter beginning. I thought the pages were blank, but guess what? The writing began to show up. My purpose now presented itself. It presented itself through pain. It presented itself through chaos. It presented itself through faith, because faith is an action word. Faith is something you experience, not just something you say you have. It's something you believe, and it's not just that, but it's just believing in yourself and believing that something greater than you is going to help walk you through this chaos, and that's exactly what it did for me. And not only that, but I also found another talent I have. One of the things they tell us in recovery, which is very important, is put pen to paper. You're going to hear that many times if you haven't already, is put pen to paper, right? And that's exactly what I did. I put pen to paper. And I discovered that I was a very talented writer. I had an ability to express myself on paper almost just as well as I did with my voice. That I can be loud on paper just as loud as I am to the community on a advocacy stage. So that's exactly what I did. I ended up doing a news story there at the hospital in the same shrew that I once laid in with 2 gaping stab wounds. The same room that I almost laid in dying at one time, I was now talking about life. What a powerful thing that is. That's another full circle moment for me. That day, in front of that camera, and knowing that I once laid in this room dying, it was such a magical moment because I saw God. I said, God, I see you. You brought me here once to show me where I would be again one day if I was able to survive, which God walked me through. I worked there at the hospital for about 3.5 years. I co-authored a medical research abstract on peer support in the emergency department setting. It was a peer volunteer. It was incorporating peer volunteers in an emergency department setting to help us combat substance use disorder. So peers in the emergency room are not a new concept in itself, but the way that I was incorporating it was. See, usually things of that nature need to come in on a consult service. In my case, I was an employee of the hospital. I had just as much access as a nurse, as a doctor, which some people would be like, oh, they resort back to this guy was an addict. But that was my degree. My degree was my addiction. Instead of getting it in school, I got it in these streets. Either way, I had it. But I also realized that I was an incredibly intelligent person. So I became what I like to call bilingual. So with that being said, is I can walk into a room and talk to a guy who's just like me from these streets, been homeless for years, and then in the same moment walk out of that room and address a medical professional in the same language. Because that's where we gain respect, is by rising above. I was also put in charge of a reducing stigma project. They asked me if I wanted to do a video, and I said yes, and they said, good, do it. No direction. They just knew I had it, which is another moment where faith comes in. I had faith that I could accomplish that goal and accomplish it just as much as everybody believing in me thought I could. And so I did that, the stigma video. I'm like, how am I going to do this? So, we have a lot of power in our voice, but it's how we use it. It's how we combat stigma. A lot of people want to bump heads. My opinion, your opinion, and we're going to bump heads until somebody does what? Walks away. Whose perception is changing in that moment? Nobody's. Actually, they're probably getting worse. So what I did is I went in and I wanted to understand why they had it in the first place. Why do they think addicts or people suffering with addiction and substance use disorder, why don't they deserve Narcan? Why don't they deserve medical treatment or the same type of treatment others get? It angers a lot of people. But instead of letting it anger me, I let it motivate me. And I would go in, I would talk to these medical professionals and these nurses and counselors and social workers and hear their personal stories. And 9 times out of 10, they had their own experience with addiction to some degree, whether it was a family member. So maybe it was cousin Roger robbed grandma when he had a heroin addiction. Well, guess what? Now everybody laying in that hospital bed is cousin Roger. So how do I change that perception? For one, I am open about my recovery, not just my journey. I am open about my almost every single aspect of it, which is which I could touch on in a minute. But what it did was they don't see people recover, because what happens when you do? You stop coming to the hospital. So they didn't see the beauty in the recovery. Because they weren't exposed to it. So now I'm exposing them to it. I'm letting them know that they can't. Harley Jane. I'm letting them know that they can. It's live. So letting them know that we do recover, and not only do we recover, but we do amazing things with that recovery. So understanding their point of view gave me a door that I could walk through and begin to see. Because if I'm accepting of theirs, they're going to be much more accepting of mine. And I increased the Narcan distribution in the emergency room by like 500%. Now, every providers were they were almost fighting over who gets to get this person their Narcan, who gets to, help this person get their medication they need to bridge them to treatment. And it was encouraging, and it became a team effort. These people are not against me. They are for me. But maybe I have to earn that respect. Maybe I have to earn that. Nothing in life worth having is given. It is earned. Now, you may deserve it, but that doesn't mean you don't have to earn it. And that's what I did. And I was able to do this video, and I'm going to tell you the angle I took was I utilized my daughter. What a lot of people don't, my daughter is 5 years old. I've been, my sobriety date is 11/1/16. She was born 4/2/18. If I had not been saved by Narcan and harm reduction, if I had not been shown compassion, that little girl wouldn't be here today. And I don't know if you saw that, but she's absolutely beautiful. So you can't really tell a kid, how can somebody see a child and say that child doesn't deserve to be here? Yes, they're going to say they do. So in order for that child to have been here, somebody had to be given some Narcan, or naloxone, right, is the official name. Or the little girl wouldn't be here. So somebody hadn't done that for me. So I'm giving them an opportunity to be that person. You don't have to know that somebody's life is saved. That's not your job. Your job is to help change the direction of it and give them an opportunity to plant a seed. That seed will grow, but it must first be planted. What a privilege that is. There was They first started showcasing this video to a lot of the doctors who were now interning and things like that. Well, they showed it to an intern who had just recently graduated from medical school, and he showed it to his mother. Turns out that he had a brother that had some issues with substance use disorder, and had been estranged from the family for about 3 years or so. Not only just estranged, but the family had basically decided they could no longer deal with his substance use disorder, and they cut him off. He went home and showed his mother this video. And his mother called her son for the first time in years, and he said, "Mom, I need help." And she went and picked him up that next day and took him to treatment. They're happy tears. But what an amazing experience that they had, that I got to share and just be even a little bit of a part of. And that just goes to show the example of how powerful our stories are, how powerful compassion is, and how powerful it is for us or how important it is, if you're comfortable, to voice that. Being an advocate for others doesn't mean that you fight the system, not in every way. Sometimes it's understanding the system. Sometimes it is compromising. But the end result is a life saved. Some of those things that I've had to do and compromise with, maybe I really didn't want to, because maybe my belief was maybe kind of steered a little bit of a different direction, but I knew that the end result could be a life saved. A life saved. Maybe not even a life saved, but at least you change the direction of that life. You're giving them an opportunity. So what we do is give opportunities. We don't save lives. One thing I've learned during this process, I think at the last time of this video, maybe lost 20 or so friends to addiction. It's over 50 now. We are in, I believe, a new era of not only recovery, but addiction. There's drugs now. There's things that are being cut with drugs that are more deadly than we ever could have imagined. It's time for us to be all hands on deck. It's time for those of us comfortable and those of us with the training and the drive to get on the front lines. It's time to fight. My best weapon is my mouth, and I'll use opportunities, but I need an army, and that's what I believe we have. But it's all of us coming together. God saved you for a reason. He saved you for a reason. You are not here by accident today. I promise you that. You are here with a purpose. That last overdose I had, I remember laying on being in the hotel room. First of all, I don't know how the paramedics even got there. I was alone, but they got there. Somehow they showed up in that room. I don't really know why. I never asked. I got kicked out of the hotel shortly after I woke up. But with that being said, in that moment, when I came to, the paramedic goes, "Bro, you were dead. You were dead. You're not going to let us take you to the hospital, are you?" And I was like, "No, I'm good." But when I came to, I felt as though like my arm was my leg and my leg was my arm, and I was upside down in my own body. And I believe that that's because I died. And God said, "Nope, you're not done yet," and thrusted me back into my body so fast and so hard with that purpose. He attached something to me. He attached me with a gift. What an amazing gift. I'll go through what I had to go through 10 times to be able to carry this message and have that gift. Recovery has not been all, rainbows and sunshine. Not everything has been success. And I want to share this. And I'm going to leave out some details, but I want to share this because I believe that it will showcase the resilience that we could possibly have and the importance of fellowship. When I last spoke, I was with my daughter's mother, and since then we had separated, and it was a rough separation. We had gotten engaged prior to that, and the separation really tested my faith, and it tested my recovery. I remember standing in my kitchen, the house that we had together at the time, knowing I had to leave, or knowing I was leaving, and yelling like, "God, why? Why would you do this to me? I did this, I've done that." And, it was like all I wanted was my family. And it was just very difficult for me to grasp the concept of why this was happening. I mean, as someone in recovery, I always resort back to I survived that. Why would you do this to me? I help people. Why would you do this to me? But it's not always about that. He did for me what I couldn't do for myself. And not only that, I had gotten on social media. I began to kind of express myself, and that people in this recovery community came out of the woodwork for me. And I'm no different than anybody else. I had nothing when I left her, and they started they had fundraisers, GoFundMes, things like that, without even telling me, because they were like, "Daniel, you helped me. It's my turn to help you." And I had to accept that help, because I'll tell you one thing, I might be able to help somebody, but boy, try to help me, and I don't know if I can accept that or not. So I've had to change my perception, because I can't take that gift away from them. Maybe they need that day. That's selfish of me to turn down the help. So I took it, but the point was I didn't realize how supportive the recovery community was, and I had 5 years in. And by that I mean they really showed up just like they said they would. And they showed up in droves. And for that, I'm grateful. It showed me a side of this life that I didn't really know existed. I had heard about it. We think it's there, but I got the gift to experience it. You know, God gave me an opportunity to practice by what I preach, to practice these principles that I've been able to instill in others, man. And although it hurt, I survived. And not only that, but I've helped others get through that same situation. I had a guy, actually, that day, the day that I was talking about when I was yelling at God. You want to hear how this works? I'm yelling at God, then I yelled at the devil, and I wrote him a letter. I wrote a letter to the devil. God can hear my prayers. I wanted him to hear me. That he wasn't going to win. That I was going to fight back. That he'd been underestimating me. Because there is good in this world and there is evil, but I'll be danged if the evil is going to take me. I didn't survive this for nothing. So I fought back, but I had to learn how to fight. I had to learn how to fight this opponent. This is not a physical opponent, it's a spiritual one. So in order for me to fight a spiritual opponent, I must sharpen my spiritual set of skills. So I got with a mentor, I got with a sponsor, I took what they taught me. I helped my fellowship just as though they were my training partners, and I sparred with them. And when the moment came of that day, when the fight and the bell rang, I was ready. I was as ready as I was going to be. So I'm sitting there at the table that day, almost literally right after yelling at the ground and at the sky, and my phone rings. And it's a gentleman whose head literally was like, Daniel, I saw what you had just are going through. I am going through the same thing, but I don't know how you did it sober. I overdosed. I'm downtown. I've been robbed. I was beaten. And if I don't get into a treatment center tonight, I'm going to die. And I was able this guy reached out to me because of the pain I was going through. Like, it was like, if we can find it, if we can see it and open ourselves up to the spiritual realm of the world and truly believe and have faith, that's the way the gifts are given. They're not given in a car. It's not given in a lottery ticket. It's given in service. Because that's priceless. And I was able to get that guy into treatment that night. And I'll tell you what, I felt a little bit better. I was able to start changing my perception. Like, you know what? Maybe I am going through this for a reason, as bad as it is. And sometimes they don't make sense. Trust me, I know it doesn't make sense. I don't believe that everything happens for a reason. I want to make sure that that's clear. But the world can be an ugly place. The thing is that things are happening. It's about, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to lay in a corner and cower? Are you going to hide? And that's okay to do too for a little bit of time, but there comes a point where you must stand and fight back. It's the question is, what does that fighting look like? My fight? I got tired of being the victim. I have been the victim of some awful things. But my hope does not live there. I refuse to let those people hurt me any longer. This rent ain't free. I paid for it. If they can't afford it, they got to go. So instead of being the victim, I became a survivor. Survivors stand tall. Survivors lead the crowd. Survivors have a voice. Survivors have power that unless you've survived what they did, you cannot reach the same people that they can. And although it hurts to get there, what a gift that is. What a gift. I'm grateful today for everything I've gone through. I'm grateful for everything I've survived. I may regret some of the things I did to get there, but I got there. And that's really what we're all trying to do. Recently I've become fairly successful in the treatment industry. Because really, like, they just pay me for something I was doing for free anyway. But really, I believe that it's God helping to support my cause, support the mission that we have. So I'm grateful for that. So I try to embrace it and be grateful and thankful and just try to stay on the path. And recently I had a couple bumps in the road, but something was different this time. I got excited. You know why I got excited? Because if you heard my original story, I survived that stuff when I was 15 years old. When I was a kid, I survived that. I survived some very, intense mixed martial arts and combat sports matches. I survived IV drug use and addiction. Survived alcoholism. Survived substance use disorder. Survived breakups. Survived stabbing. I could go on and on. Guess what the theme is there? I survived, not I was victim of. I'm a survivor of. So guess what? When this happened this time, I got excited. I got excited because God has never put me in a position that I've been broken down and not been built up twice as strong and not elevated. This is an opportunity, not setback. So when those things happen in your life that you're just, one example, like, especially when you first get sober or clean, you're just like, it's natural to want everything right away. It's natural. It's okay to be like that. It's not okay to let that break you though and take you back. And it's not a setback. Baby mama, baby daddy told you can't see your kid yet. That is not a setback. That is a challenge. I encourage you to take that challenge. Prove them wrong and prove the people who believe in you right. That's my goal. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. But I want to prove to the people that didn't believe in me and the people that believed in me, I want to prove them the same thing. That we do recover and we do come back from this and do amazing things with it. That I am not just some junkie or some addict. That I am a father. That I am a son. That I am a brother. That I am an advocate. That I am a voice. That I am a helping hand. That's what I am. But I have to have them both. It comes with a cost, But I promise that whatever it's going to cost, what you're going to get in return, will shadow it by tenfold. There's nothing more amazing than being able to light the candle of hope in somebody else. And sometimes you may not even know that it's lit. It's not our job to continue to plant a seed. It's not our job to continue to water it. Not everybody. Your job may be to just tell somebody, hey, you can recover. You can do this. I know what you think, but you do matter because you matter to me. I don't have to know you to love you. We are a community. I do love you. I will do anything I can for somebody as long as they're willing to match the energy. And there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes this is telling them that it's going to be okay. Sometimes it's hugging somebody. Be nice. Help somebody. You don't know when the last time was somebody did. I take every opportunity I can. I try to understand. One of the other things I learned in this process is that people have bad days. Other people besides me have bad days. If I want people to be compassionate to me and show me grace, then I got to do the same. And I'll show you grace. I like showing grace to people I don't know. I love showing grace to people that I'm never probably going to see again. I like telling people that they matter and it's going to be okay, and knowing that I'm never going to know what direction that goes in. Because I believe in what I'm doing. I have faith in them, and I have faith in God that He's not going to do something that what He's doing in your life has a purpose. But be mindful. Just be mindful. Today I've had the privilege of, not only having those things published, I'm working on a book. I've been able to speak all over the country at this point and been able to reach people that normally wouldn't be reached. I've been able to take a social media platform that a lot of people have used to harm others and help others. I'll tell you what, my algorithm is so positive. I wish I could share with the world. Nothing negative comes up on my newsfeed. You know why? Because I don't pay attention to it. I don't need that, man. I've had enough of that. I get enough of that. It's not easy helping others. It's not easy, especially when it's inconvenient. You got to do it on days where it's not convenient. 2 a.m, my phone rang. I'm sleeping. Nah, man, I'm up. Answering that phone because it's inconvenient. I'll use an example. When I was a fighter, there were situations where, man, I really was like, this was a really bad idea. I'm kidding. I'm crushed right now. But I made it through, and I actually learned more in those moments than I did in the fights that just went my way. When things don't go my way, I learn way more than when they do. But that's because I've changed my perception and my mindset on life and in recovery. Today, I get to be a father. Today, I get to have material things. Today, I get to have friendships. Today, I get to be there for my mother who's been in the hospital for the last year dying. But I'm showing up and I get to be there. But it was all these steps along the way. I believe the key to long-term recovery is being of service and making service the biggest part of your life that you can possibly make it. I made it. Not only is it something I do, but it's something that I've turned my career into, is of service. And for that, I couldn't imagine picking back up and losing that. That's my new high, is helping others. And I love it. And it's much safer. So, just remember that there will be challenges. There will be bad days. But if you keep faith on those days, you will make it through. It may not look the way you want it to, but you will make it through. And it might look even better than you imagined. If I would have told you what my life would be like today, 6.5 years ago, I would have sold myself short. So be open-minded and keep trudging. I promise if you don't pick up, it will get better. Thank you.